before we dive into the movie, I guess, and the plot points, let's go over. The director is Paul Verhoeven. I believe that's pronounced right.
Yeah.
And what he was known for is he was coming off a pretty hot streak when he took this movie. He was doing RoboCop. He did Total Recall, Basic Instinct, Showgirls. Then he did Starship Troopers, and then he did Hollow Man. And the career just kind of went on pause and down a little bit. And then he slowly started making a comeback in the mid 2000s. The budget was $105 million, and it grossed $121 worldwide, which means it was a bomb. It was not good. However, as most everyone knows, it became a cult classic after when it went straight to DVD because it was a huge sci-fi, I guess sci-fi action movie, but it was one of the biggest sci-fi action movies anyone had really had to date. I don't think anything really rivaled it. It was like an Avengers level sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
So those are kind of the basic facts going into the discussion we're about to have.
All right, so then I'll pick it up. So, plot. I thought the plot was good, but you can tell that this is, nearly a 30-year-old movie, 25-year-old movie. You can just tell the age of it. But however, like some of the writing was okay. Some of it was like action movie cheesy, which was cool, and some of it was rom-com funny stuff that was cool. So, plot-wise, you read a lot of reviews online. They say they don't like the political aspect of it, but I feel like they were trying to portray a world that was changing because it was so far in the future. But they kept a lot of the same stuff that we know and love from our time today. Plot overall, you can tell that it's an aging movie. Some of the dialogue isn't great, but you can tell overall the writing was good. I think it progressed well, but it was like intense for 10 minutes and then slow for 20 minutes and then intense for 25 minutes and then slow for 5 minutes. I think the pacing of the movie wasn't that great.
Here's the thing with the plot, right? I thought the plot was really, the writing was really well done. I thought it was very unique. It's if you weren't paying attention, you totally missed foreshadowing. And it wasn't like in-your-face foreshadowing. Now, to pivot off of that, some of it was kind of weird because, right, it was supposed to be just in the future, right? It's just supposed to be in the future, and, we'll get into villains in a little bit, but the villain was like this big bug race. My problem with this, with the plot, was little things that turned into be monstrous details, right? So, Doogie Howser.
Yes, Doogie.
Or Barney Stinson, the Neil Patrick Harris.
Or Carl.
At the very beginning of the movie, apparently is telekinetic.
So yeah, that's pretty interesting because that's kind of like that's foreshadowing in the biggest light. But he can only do it with animals, which we come to find later out is not true. But it's pretty interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. So, but it was cool. It was like, oh, okay, so he's telekinetic with animals, but he winks at maybe humans later. But they just don't explain that over 100 years from now, people can just suddenly be telekinetic. They don't really dive into that, which I guess I get. They were running out of time, but they 100% didn't have a lack of money to at least give us a 30-second brief on that.
I thought it was really interesting too. On this point, people throughout the movie would just gain ranks and lose ranks. in the snap of a finger, which I thought was really weird in the plot because someone went from a private and then all of a sudden he's a lieutenant and you're like, oh boy, that's a pretty
it felt like in the matter of an hour, Rico went from private to team leader to sergeant to lieutenant to private to
no, he went from team leader back to private because someone died, and then you know what I mean though. It's
it was,
the situation needed a lieutenant and someone to lead, and then they were like, you're the guy.
it was odd. Yeah, I agree. And then the other thing I had with the plot that I wanted to call out was the very beginning. what holds true is the two levels of crazy with women. Denise Richards was the level of crazy where she makes you fall in love with her, knowing full well she's just gonna break your heart the entire time.
Hits on other guys during the football game while you're standing right next to him.
He's the guy you don't have to worry about. Ends up being with the guy you don't have to worry about. And then you have Diz, who like Rico can't even take notes in class without Diz just like trying to stand up in class to see what he's doing.
Yup.
Following him in the hallways, harassing his girlfriend at the time.
Hey, we have a whole character section here. Did we push this off?
Yeah, but it just like it kind of it's plot too, because obviously the whole movie is based around him joining because of her and blah blah blah, and then end up being with her.
Yeah.
But the rest of the plot of the movie I thought was pretty well done until the very end. The very end was like
the very end was just how do we wrap this up?
Yeah, very anticlimactic, like kind of weird, but yeah. So that was the plot. It was like hit or miss for me, but I don't know about you.
So I think the plot held up. If you think of this as like a true sci-fi movie, there are very much worse sci-fi movies than this will ever be.
Yeah.
So it holds up for me. I really like the plot.
The plot was fine. Okay, so then we want to go into effects, and I know you have a lot to talk about with effects, so I'll just go first. Basically, I don't know. I thought the effects were like, I don't want to compare it to Jurassic Park because it wasn't Jurassic Park. Don't forget, easy chat. Yeah, the effects weren't Jurassic Park level, but they were pretty fucking good. Like they were, like those bugs were pretty good.
Yeah.
The one complaint I think I did have about the effects was that like you made these minion bugs look amazing. These flying bugs looked phenomenal. You had your giant bugs that, you know, shot acid and beams or whatever. And the brain bug at the end, that's what you came up with. It's like, you were so close. And then the other thing I had was like bullets and firing bullets. We have people who are telekinesis. We have, you know, the laser tag game they played would paralyze people with laser, but you have to shoot bullets instead of lasers. That's what we got. So it at times you could just see that like they clearly cut corners on logic to funnel probably put the effects budget all into the aliens. So
and this is where I disagree with you.
Okay.
I thought the effects were amazing. And what I did is I bought the movie on Google Play Store, and I bought the 4K upconvert. So all of the effects were also redigitized, you know, retouched. They were all upconverted. And everything looked amazing. Except for the laser beam fight. The laser beams looked just like lines of color. But what else are you going to do for laser beams? But the rest of it, like, the bugs looked amazing. All of the bugs looked amazing. You know, the space scenes looked phenomenal, and you could see like really, really good detail in the ships. Like everything looked great. But I don't think that's where most of the budget went. I think most of the budget went with hardscapes. So all of the scenes where the people get injured by bugs or get carried by bugs, they have made a hardscape of the bugs' jaws to carry them around. And there's a ton of them because they're lying on people throughout the movie. There's also, they set up an entire boot camp of buildings. They set up a whole area when he was riding on the back of the flame spitter. They set up whole bases on this planet that have towers and everything. And they're all really well designed and very little CG in them because they're actually interacting with the environment. I think most of the money for the budgeting and the effects actually came from the physical effects that were built for this movie. And when I go back to look at it now, I realize the scale of it and how much they actually physically built in order to interact with. And I think that's where the most of the money budget came from, is location stuff and actually building stuff.
Possibly. I mean, I tried to find a breakdown of the budget to see where all the money went. I wanted to know how much like Neil Patrick Harris made on this movie, and I couldn't find anything. But
Yeah, it's wild.
Effects wise, would you compare it? What would you compare it to as far as like long standing? Because the whole point is, does this movie hold up?
Yeah, does the movie hold up? I think because they did a lot more physical acts and like they physically built things, it's more like what Steven Spielberg wanted to do with Jaws. He wanted to have a physical element that they could interact with. Obviously, they had more of a budget and the technology was better when they built it. But I think as far as that goes, they had a lot to interact with. So, like in Jaws, they had the ships and they were half sank, and then they had the shark and they had all this stuff. But they could actually be on the ship, and it's not like they're in the middle of a CG stage. So, from the aspect of what they were aiming for, I think that's closer to it. And Jaws will hold up 100% of the time, all the time, because it's a fantastic movie. I think the way that they did these effects will last because it's really people in the jaws of one of these bugs or riding on the top of it, and like you're actually there with them, and you can physically see that he's holding on to the hole while he's riding rodeo on this bug. Like the effects are real, so I think it holds up.
See, when I see this, I think of like a Harry Potter movie where like you have the beasts in Harry Potter. And I know Harry Potter came out a lot later than this, but like it wasn't that much later. It was only like a decade, but
I mean, 10 years in movie years is.
I do think that the effects were really good at times. Like couldn't even tell that these bugs aren't real, like Thanos level bugs. And then you had times where it was like, bro, like when the destroyers in space were being blown up by the bugs. It's like, oh man, yeah, you had me for a little while. But I mean, it is what it is. It was 97. I thought, well, I mean, if you went to go see the effects in 97, you were probably floored.
Right. Well, let's talk one more comparison within the movie then. In the classroom in the very beginning when they're dissecting the bug, really good effects. Everything's slimy, everything's gross. He cuts it open, it flies open. He hands it, like really, really good, right? Then when he finds the little bug that carries the brain bug in the base that they got tricked into going to, he just flips it over and it's just like a solid piece of rubber that's just rolling around on the ground now.
Yeah.
So, like, I agree with you. Some parts, they really were like, oh, we're going to blow people away with how awesome this is. And the other times, they're like, yeah, a bug needs to get there for, like, foreshadowing reasons.
Yeah, it was hit or miss, but, like, more often it was hit, I think, with the effects.
I agree. And then the way that they scaled it, like, these battles were humongous, and you could see, like the entire planet worth of bugs coming your direction. Like, they did a really good job with that.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I don't know. Like I said, when they missed, though, it was a giant miss, I guess, for me. I like the movie, like the effects wise, but when they missed, man, they missed pretty good.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's go into the cast, though, because like I'm super excited to talk about cast. I don't know about you. I think the cast of the movie, I'd seen this movie like probably 100 times as a kid, and I haven't watched it in a really long time. But then when I picked it back up, like yesterday, bro, I was blown away by how many actors were in this cast.
Yeah,
like you had Neil Patrick Harris, you had Denise Richards, Jake Busey, who at the time was a really like big name actor.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're gonna go by roles, you had Hank Schrader, you had the priest from The Walking Dead in there.
Yeah.
Like I mean, even
Michael Ironside.
Yeah, he's huge. I want to say
Brown did some stuff.
Yeah, I want to say like Dina Meyer counts as like boosting the cast.
Dizzy. Oh, she has my
And
heart.
then you had Eric. Yeah, Dizzy. I mean, what a mistake, Denise Richards over Dizzy. What a mistake.
Right.
And then you had Eric Bruscotter, and I know like a lot of people are like, "What the fuck is that guy?" Listen, if you don't know who Brew Baker is from Major League 2, then you need to stop watching this. Go back, watch Major League 2, and enjoy Eric Bruscotter. Brew Baker, baby, all the way, Team Brew. The cast was so fucking good. Even Brenda Strong as the commander she didn't play a major role in the flight team.
She's
whatever.
a big name. Yeah.
But like, holy shit, bro!
Yeah.
Like, Major League was not better than Major League 2, so that's you're get the fuck out of here. But yeah, no, the cast I thought was phenomenal. I thought they used everyone well. Rico was a virtual no-name who became like I thought he put in a pretty good performance considering how like this movie towed the line of campy, and it towed the line of like being a serious action film. So I thought it did a good job with the cast. What do you think?
I mean, I totally agree. I think that they had a lot of good cast. I think the benefit and the reason why I don't think that casting was their biggest budget is because I think they caught a lot of these people pretty early. Even if they were pretty well known, they were pretty early in their movie careers. But then, like, the people that they needed to carry the story. So when you look at Ironside, Michael Ironside, he carried a lot of that story halfway through. And they needed a more seasoned actor, and they found it in him. I think that the casting and the writing was good enough with who they had chosen to go on. But I'm just going to go into characters real quick. Carmen's a skank, and Dizzy's awesome, right? I wrote that literally on my my notes here. Like, Carmen's literally at the football game in the beginning, flirting up the other dude, Xander, and Rico's right there.
I mean, if we're diving into the actual characters right now, like, yeah, here's where it becomes an issue. Because Denise Richards, I thought, put in probably the worst performance I've ever seen.
Right.
She had so much Botox in her fucking face, you couldn't tell when she was happy, sad, or smitten. It was weird. And then Jake Busey literally took his character that he would eventually play in Tomcats and just dragged it into this.
Yeah.
He brought no true like military acumen. Like and I get that
comic relief.
He was just comic relief, but when they made him like squad leader, he literally pissed his pants. Like quite literally.
I don't know. Yeah,
and it's like he wanted to be squad leader the entire that was the entire boot camp. He wanted to be squad leader.
Yeah. And I think that Doogie Howser, Neil Patrick Harris, they put him in as like this cocky, smug, better than everyone character, and he just was really good.
Here was my thing too. I'm glad we went from Jake, like Ace, I guess is his name, to Neil Patrick Harris. How dope would it have been? And I feel like this would have made the movie better with this slight change, flipping those two. Put Doogie Howser in the gym for like 3 or 4 months, and then give Jake his glasses, and I feel like Jake plays a better douchebag, like better than you douchebag, and makes you like kind of know that he's because like at first you're like, man, I kind of like Neil Patrick Harris as this character, and then like at the end of the movie you're like, okay, you're kind of a fucking you're a douche, man.
Yeah, but at the same time, he took this character, Neil Patrick Harris, and he flipped it into How I Met Your Mother, and he's pretty much the same character without the mind reading.
I mean, almost. I wish he was a little more Barney Stinson before he joined the military. Like,
it would have been great, right?
Yeah, if he was a little more. It's a rated R movie. Let the man be a little dirty. Also, like, I guess you didn't know at the he probably had some confidence issues like that, where he was like, you know,
he was still pretty young in his. I mean, he had done pretty little before this, so.
And no one really knew he was gay yet. I don't think at this point.
I don't think he had come out yet. Yeah.
So like there was probably some weird issues, but I feel like if you switch those two and you just let Neil Patrick Harris play, you would have got such a better performance out of him, and it probably would have made like the camaraderie aspect of like the douchebags in Basic, because like let's be honest, the guys in Basic, that's not Basic, right? Like it didn't feel like Basic. Or like what you would think that would be like. It was literally them going in the yard and working out.
Yeah. But at the same time, I think Jake Busey carried this movie and his role better than Neil Patrick Harris if you put him in the same role. I think it would have been more comic relief and less serious. Because there's a couple times like when Carmen sends the thing to break up with Rico, where Jake Busey plays like the sentimental role, and he like sits down with him, has a talk with him, and then when they're at the camp and he's playing the violin and he's doing that and he's being pretty funny. I feel like I don't know if Neil Patrick Harris would have had the chops to do that at the time.
I'm glad you brought up the violin. Can we talk about that for a second?
It was awesome, right?
Just for a quick second, because we're talking about characters, right?
Yeah.
It was fine, but the guy whips out beer and goes, "Here's the beer and here's the entertainment." The entertainment, there was probably 8 kegs of beer. There was the entertainment was 2 footballs, a frisbee, like a basketball, and then a violin. Like, what? Hello? Like, we're in the future? You guys don't have iPods to play music? It was so random and so bizarre. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up was, like, these guys are going against bugs that are hurting them and gashing them and all this other shit. In the very beginning of the movie, the drill sergeant breaks Breckenridge's arm in the very beginning, and they put some magic ice pack on it where he's fine the next day. Right? Where the fuck are these ice packs? A, I would like one. And B, why didn't they pack more of those for when the people who got, like, gashed, like Diz, like when Diz gets gashed.
Oh, yeah, but she got rocked.
But she just, like, stopped running. Like, Rico's screaming, and all these bugs are swarming.
Diz!
And she stops, turns around, and then eats two to the chest.
And then 2 more to the chest.
So stupid.
Yeah, I mean, it was stupid, but, like, her death scene was pretty good. Don't let go of me, Rico.
Yeah, okay, so when she had to actually act, she was terrible.
Yeah, no, she was not
When
good.
she had to actually act, because I feel like she is a crazy bitch, but when she had to actually act, dear Lord, was her acting fucking terrible.
It wasn't that great, but when she was, like, the cocky, quarterback, and when she was, like, the I'm gonna get him anyway type person, it was fine because it was just, like, playful banter, but then when, like, her death scene, it was only great because it was so over the top.
Yeah, it was fucking terrible. All right.
Let's move on. We can get stuck on this all day.
Yeah. All right. So
the villain. Next
is the villain. What did you think about the villain?
So I didn't mind it. The villain as a whole is the bug species, right? But I'm just gonna say the soldier bugs were scary. The flying bugs were terrifying. The friggin' tanks, the ones that spit the fire, are wild. The huge things that shoot plasma out of their butt to kill the ships, like, that's pretty impressive that they can poop something into the atmosphere. It's pretty wild. I think all of them had, like, unique differences that made them scary on their own. But then they also had, like, really big weaknesses which made them conquerable. Except for one. Except for the brain bug. So I see the biggest weakness of the brain bug as mobility. I didn't mind. I thought that the effects were okay. I didn't mind that it looked like a big blob because I just imagined it being a brain. So I'm like, that's kind of what a brain would look like to me. And its biggest weakness was mobility. Like, it was so big from sucking out so many brains that it couldn't walk on its own and had to have these little carrier bugs bring it around. I think it was really unique because Rico recognized those bugs and he saw them earlier in the movie and he foreshadowed, like whenever I see these bugs, you're supposed to know what's coming. And just the thought of a bug being able to suck out your brains and then know everything you know is terrifying. It's terrifying.
So I'll say the minion bugs were great, like the ground bugs. The big beetles that were supposed to be like the tanks were pretty cool. The flying ones were horrifying.
Yeah. And then and at one point they started, like, just flying by people and chopping off their heads. I was like, wow, that's new.
Yeah, like that shit's terrifying. Like, if you think about it, like, yeah, how do you beat all them? I guess that brings up a good point though, where, like, at times it was weird, right? Like, at times one person could take out, like, 8 bugs by themselves, but then there were times where you needed, like, 8 people to kill one bug. And it was just like, the consistency.
The consistency was crazy, especially because they had just got done watching that the Carl Jenkins video on how to take down a bug, and it teaches them to shoot the nerve stem. Meanwhile, they're just, like, shooting their legs off and like their faces and all that stuff the whole time. And like,
it's weird, right? So like,
and to touch back on this, before you get into your next point, when Carmen crash lands with Xander into the cave, literally 2 people take down an entire wall of bugs.
Yeah.
And then one person by himself is laying there, taking down an entire wall of bugs, and they were literally getting torn to shreds 10 minutes before that.
Which also brings up a better point, too, with... Remember when they were in the compound being surrounded by bugs, and Diz is like, I'm out, and Rico gives her his last clip, and then she must have fired off 1,000 fucking shots.
No, they didn't reload this whole movie.
Yeah, how many bullets are in these clips? How many bullets? Like, I want that gun in Warzone. Like, please. Like,
SCM-82.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, bro. Like, okay, so you figured out infinite ammo, but you haven't figured out laser guns. Like, the fuck, bro? So, that was bizarre, but then we get into, like, let's call her the queen instead of the brain. Because, right, it's kind of like a queen. The queen bug is a giant... For those of you who haven't seen the movie and are just watching in chat, the queen bug is just a giant blob. It's like if you like had a half inflated balloon and it just kind of slugs its way across the floor. It's moving at a snail's pace, and then it gets up to you and it's like vagina mouth opens up, right? And it has this like big dick in it that it slams through your head and sucks out your brains and then knows everything you know, right? Like that's kind of the gross summation of what it is, right?
Yeah.
So my thing is okay. It only has the one dick to like suck your brains out with. Like they cut the dick, they gave him a circumcision, took a little off top, and like he was rendered fucking useless, or she.
He grows back.
But that's what I'm saying. Like there wasn't much thought put into the villain, the very last villain, because now it's rendered useless, right? Like it can't do what it's clearly its primary function is to do that. So
well, think of it this way though. Usually, the most ridiculous boss has like a glaring weakness, right? And I see it to be mobility. Maybe you see it to be that it's too easy to kill.
Well, not even kill, but like they didn't kill it. They captured it in the end, but they rendered it absolutely ineffective with one swing of the blade. Which is, I get that, but like, it wasn't like it was one swing from with her injured hand, fucking Denise Richards. Yeah. Like 80-pound cocained out Denise Richards, where the Botox weighs more than her body weight. Like, you're gonna tell me she's gonna fucking... No, man. I just don't see it. So
the other side of this too, though. Shit! I had it and I lost it.
But like, then you also take into account too that like, so. Let's say weakness. The big weakness is mobility, right? And maybe I'm being overly critical in that like one swing of the bat makes him useless, because it was projected, like the dick was protected by the labia and the fucking vagina. So, and if any of you think I'm being crude or disgusting, it's literally what it looks like. It is fucking disgusting. Yeah. Clearly, someone had not gotten laid in the effects department, and they were just like, "Hey, this is wild. What do you think, Neil? Do you like the dick or the vagina? What do you think?" That's what they were doing. So, I mean, when you think, mobility is the weakness, right? So what do they surround it with? They surround it with minion bugs, like these little fucking things to pull it around, and then just a few bugs that literally 4 people disintegrated. Like that's to me, man, that. They got lazy at the end. Yeah, because you play a game long enough, when you get closer and closer to the king in chess, there's more. There's bishops, there's queens, there's rooks, there's all sorts of shit. You get past the pawns, there should be something there.
Well, I mean, you do look at 129-minute runtime, and then they wrap up the movie in like 5 or 6 minutes.
The end was so anticlimactic, it wasn't even funny. I was just like...
But
like definitely the climax was the complex where they were being overrun and Diz died. That was.
They also set it up for sequels, and this movie does have 2 sequels and also 2 different animated series.
And that's fine, but it doesn't mean standalone. That ending blew ass. Like,
well, the very end, Doogie, or I mean, you gotta stop calling him that, Neil Patrick Harris, literally says we have to learn what he learned so we can go find the other ones. Like, he set up that there are more brain bugs out there. So
yeah, I mean it's fine, but again, the villain I thought was fucking. The villains were great. You had me up until the end. You had me in the first half, and then the very end, I'm just like.
I mean, you are right though. Like, you have the tanks that shoot the flames, but then you have this brain bug that has no defenses.
This thing couldn't spit acid, or it doesn't even have to like defend itself properly. But like you would think that it would have some sort of defense mechanism other than sucking the soul out of fucking Xander. Like,
yeah.
And also too, like, I guess if this thing was almighty and went to the complex and everything, and it knew everything and knew what everyone was thinking, why? How did it miss the guy in the fucking locker at the complex? Like,
all that stuff happened. He locked himself in there while someone else got their brain sucked.
Right, but if you're sucking that dude's brain, also too,
he doesn't know he's hidden in there.
The other thing too was if you're sucking someone's brain, like it's a fucking, you're at the end of your cereal and you're literally just How are you gaining intelligence from it? Like, they just don't.
They don't explain.
And I guess you don't have to explain it. You don't have to, right? Because you knew you were gonna make. Clearly, they knew they were making a sequel with how trash this thing did at the box office. But like, it's just like, as a viewer, I left so underwhelmed by the villain that it literally like it ruined the movie. Like, as an adult. Like, I kind of knew how it ended, but I thought as an adult watching this, I'd feel a little bit better about it. Doogie figuring out that he has fucking telekinesis and could speak to Rico
saying, like, didn't you plant that thought in my head? Like that one?
Yeah, like that was cool. That was like a subtle tip-off. Yeah. But again, bro, when did the human race get telekinesis? When did we become the true X-Men here? And why didn't we dive into that just a little bit further? With, like, even those news updates that they did like, every, third of the movie with want to know more? Fuck yeah, I want to know more. I'm over here pounding the fucking OK button on my remote.
You want to know what else is funny? You can tell that this is probably, like, a budgeting thing. In the very, very beginning, the first 3 minutes of the movie, they play, like, a reel. It's like, recruit today because service guarantees citizenship. They show clips that are going to happen later on in the movie.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty funny.
That's wild. Okay, so I did my score, and it was based off of 100. I went with 74 out of 100, and that's going to be my little bison score, I guess, is 74 out of 100. And the reason I went with 74 out of 100 was because I thought the villain was terrible at the end. I thought the lack of knowledge throughout the movie was... Like, they didn't explain the telekinesis. They didn't explain why we didn't just nuke the planet. They didn't explain the weapons and why we're so far behind. There was just a lot of question marks, and I wanted to go lower than 74 or 74. I initially had this at 55, but I had to give the brownie points to the effects. The effects were so fucking good on those minion bugs. Yeah, man. It was... Like, it was really fucking good, and was it a trailblazer for effects? No, it wasn't. But if you were to stack it up with Jurassic Park 1, it kind of, they didn't use the animatronics, I don't think, so it kind of like holds a flame to it at least. But like, it was definitely worth the 74, making it kind of like a C- movie. Definitely would recommend to people. Would say, hey, you want to try? You like sci-fi? Starship Troopers, start there. Haven't seen the sequels because, to be quite honest,
They're awful.
The effects are fine, but the plot you could just tell wasn't very good.
Well, the effects in the second and third movie get way worse. Like I said, it's I think it's one of the few franchises that the budget went down for the second and third movies consecutively.
So that's where I sit. How about you?
I gave it an 85.
85.
And it's kind of the same thing. Like, I didn't mind the final boss so much because it is a terrifying boss when you think of it, even though it was easy to, beat, and it had its glaring mistakes. But I really the things that knocked it down a little bit were just kind of like how the movie progressed. I think the progression was not so great. So like you hop from like on the planet to in the ships to on the planet to in the ships to back at home to you hop around a ton to try and progress all three main characters at the same time. And I think Denise Richards was pretty bad casting, to be honest. I think Dizzy was great, but I don't know if it was just how she played her or whatever, but I thought Karma was terrible. So I gave it an 85 and I'm going to say the effects were amazing, but I truly believe that the 4K upport made it look even better. And when it looked even better, when you think that this movie was made in 1997, it is just wild how good the effects are, especially upconverted. So that carried it all the way to an 85 for me. I gave it a solid B.
You gave it an 85?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I could have put it in the solid B category because I feel like the plot was just so bad and like the writing I think is underrated, and that's why it's C tier to me because
it is not. To me it's a B tier movie. But so like the writing was really good, but at the same time, they added in like action star quips, like action movie quips, like those really generic, funny, meant to be funny. Like they added that. They had the romance. They had like characters from the past, like Zim asked to get deployed into the service, so they're like, the only way you're gonna do that is if you lose your rank, and then you find them at the end.
Dude, I agree. That is like brilliant writing. That's right. Brilliant writing.
Zim comes back. He's like, and I'm a private, sir.
But like, there's also a ton of lazy writing, where like, oh, Buenos Aires is the only place in the entire fucking world that got destroyed, and it just so happens to be where fucking Rico's from. Like, come on, you got to do better than that.
Also, so I had this written down as well. So, the future, they see it as there was no president that declared war. It was the council. So basically, it's United Federation of Earth instead of each countries. And everyone speaks English, and there are no accents because Buenos Aires is South American Spanish-speaking city, but everyone in there speaks English. There's no accents or anything like that. Not a single person in this movie has an accent. So they just kind of like unified the whole world. Like there is no differences anymore, which I think is pretty cool. And it was stuff you see nowadays, like co-ed bathrooms and like non-gender specific bathrooms. You see that nowadays. That was estimated in this movie, 1997. I thought that was pretty cool too.
Yeah, but see, like I find all that like I don't know. I find the lack of diversity with language and everything like that would have been something cool to address, where the world unites to fight a war, and you don't see any and that takes away from camaraderie for me. That takes away from storytelling for me. Like the language barrier.
I didn't need that to be explained. I felt like it was fine just understanding that there was a World Federation council instead of individual governments.
And then maybe for me it's I need that like Saving Private Ryan type camaraderie. Maybe I'm ruined because of it, but that's for me personally it's C tier. For you it sounds like it's B tier. In between it's a 79. So I think we're gonna say it's like a B- C+ movie. So anyone interested in seeing it, definitely take a look. Let us know what you think. I'm going to be posting this to YouTube, so make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. So definitely let us know your thoughts, and we're going to do this again every Wednesday, so tune in next Wednesday if you're interested at all. All right.